Hi everyone, this is Niladri Chaudhary, CEO of Excellentro and the Chief Organizer for the Devops India Summit. Today I'll be talking about decoding DevSecOps. I am proud to be part of the event Devops Summit 2020, Ottawa, Canada. And thanks to the organizing team for having me here as a speaker. So if you look at it, today, the agenda will be, we will talk about the latest breaches, the DevOps and DevSecOps values, the 3 myths of separation of duty, some examples of AWS best practices, and ways to think about DevOps and security. And after that, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. So if you look at it, today everybody is going for the digital transformation. And if you see, we are in the Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is not only just computerization, but the use of IoTs, the AI, ML, and so on. The more we use the digital products, the more we need to take care of security. So every organization, if you see today, is a technology company. Even somebody who is selling vegetables or anything small is also to be going for a payment gateway like Paytm or Google Pay or something like that. So there is no business actually which is currently there without having technology being used. There is a huge increase in the apps, devices, IoTs that are being used for every work. That means that we are at a very, very high risk of being attacked. If you look at it, today information is available at the speed of your connection. We have an idea in the morning and that idea gets deployed by the evening. That's the speed at which we are working. And what is happening is today, it is more data breaches, and data breaches are expensive. One of the largest ones were the Aadhaar data breach, which happened from the India. There are Equifax, there are so many other data breaches that we see every day. If you open up, if you search on the Google for what is happening today, you will find a lot of those data breaches that are happening. We need to take care of it. And with the COVID-19 situation, with the pandemic, when people are working from home, we have gone out of the safety of the office network. We are working on the routers that is available in our home, and most probably a lot of these routers will have a password like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We know that even the sequence, the password for this, firing the missile in NASA for 20 years was 9 zeros. So how easy is it to take care of it? So here are some of the examples of the data breaches that has happened. Microsoft customer support data was not a breach actually, but it was a potential breach which the bug bounty hunter had found. And it was 250 million data which is there, which was open from 5th of December till 21st of December, which could have been breached. Now, why is it? It is because some developer had made some mistake. Some tester has not been able to test it properly, and that's why it went off. Aadhaar, as I mentioned, is 1.1 billion, which is the largest as of today that we have found. Even a recent breach that you see is, attack that we see is from, most probably it is an attack, is from Telstra New Zealand. They said that there is a denial of service attack, but ultimately the next day they came back and said that it was some problem with their DNS server. So when we are looking at how to take care of it, the main point that we need to look at in DevSecOps is to bake in that sec into the DevOps. So if you look at it, DevOps starts with the 5 cultures, the CALMs, the culture, the automation, the lean, the measurement, the sharing. And along with that, DevSecOps values comes in, which is safety, transparency, prevention, and proactiveness. We need to change the culture of us to accept that security is everybody's responsibility. It is not responsibility of a group of people who are so-called the CISOs and the security SMEs of the world. We need to look at that. We need to make sure that we take accountability of every breach that happens. Somewhere we made a mistake as a developer, somewhere we made a mistake as a tester. That is because that caused this to happen. So there is a culture change that is written. As we know that we cannot keep toiling over even security. So we need automation to be done. So security has to be automated. We need to remove the security related toils also in automation. The latest book called Building Secure and Reliable System by Google brings in a very important aspect. That is, we cannot have a reliable system which is not secure. To be having a reliable system, we need to have secure system. So we need automation to make sure that security things are also done. And it is not one security program. It has to be there throughout the pipeline. It has to be there extended to the production, and it's a continuous process. We need to avoid waste. We need to remove waste from the process of security. There is no point coming in at the end of 18 months or 24 months of work and then getting to know that this product is useless because we cannot deploy it as it has vulnerability. The objective needs to be clear. That again brings to the point of culture, the point of design of the organization. We need to see that each one of us are responsible for one shared objective that DevOps has been prophesizing. We as developers are not having an objective of having as many features as possible. SMEs of security does not have the objective of stopping as many products from getting into the deployment because it is vulnerable. Each and every one of us has the responsibility and accountability to put as many deployments as possible on production, which are not vulnerable. That is the difference in the objective. And I talked about the design, organization's design. That plays a very important role. If you look at it, I was talking to John Willis the other day, and he was also mentioning the same thing, that one of the major challenges is the organizational design. Who does the CISO report to? In many organizations, it's not the CEO. The CISO reports, in case of Equifax, one of the biggest breaches that had happened, is the legal or maybe finance. But will they be able to do anything if they know that there is a vulnerability? No. The CIO needs to know. The CISO needs to report to the CIO or at least to the CEO, so that everybody is in sync what is happening and it has to be taken care of. So we need to change that culture. We need to remove those unnecessary processes to stop things, but to make sure, enable everyone with the knowledge, with the technology, with the understanding, with the shared accountability, that we are able to deliver more and more secure deployments faster. And if we have to improve anything, we know we have to measure. So security has to be part of the measurement in our normal metrics that we collect. And finally, it is about sharing. Everybody has to share. Everybody has to share the knowledge. SMEs of security has to come as trusted advisors towards the left and train people who are developers, who are testers, to be able to deliver something which is secure. If you look at it, the top 10 OWASP vulnerabilities, the number one is injection problem. Now, injection problem is not a big deal to do, but it has to be taken care of starting from the design stage and also how the developers are developing. But it is there as top number one in OWASP list from 2013. Why is it still there after 7 years? Because we do not take responsibility. We do not learn from it. And that's where the question comes is, we need to have not only T-shaped skill, but at least pie-shaped skill. That is my personal opinion. If you want to be in a DevOps environment, if you want to be in today's Industry 4 digital environment, we need to have everybody to be with pie-shaped skill. What does pie-shaped skill mean? 2 primary skills, 1 secondary skill. I am a developer. I also know the basics of operations and infrastructure. And I also know security. I am a developer. I am also a tester, but I also know security. So security has to be a skill set which is available to everyone. Then only we can share. We need to share not only the knowledge, we need to share the pain. So the moment we take accountability that yes, we are responsible for every breach that happens, then we share the pain. We take care of things on the production, not just in the development, and wash our hands off. And that's where it is very important for us to change the structure as we develop, as we produce today, from a project-based to a product-based approach, as Nick Kirsten says in his book. We need to move from a project to product-based approach. We cannot continue. And if we look at the CI/CD, the continuous delivery aspect, we cannot do a delivery of a continuous delivery with project kind of environment. We need to move it into a product environment and take that shared accountability. So what DevSecOps is? It is not about the name, because there has been a lot of debates. Should it be DevSecOps? Should it be SecDevOps? Should it be DevOpsSec? Doesn't matter. The point is security must be fully integrated in the DevOps. It should be baked into the CI/CD pipeline. It's not a separate program. So we need to reinvent the way we have thought what security is. It's not one single department who is responsible for it. Each one of us is responsible, like each one of us is responsible for quality. So now it is the time to reinvent that. We need to leverage automation. We are using automation a lot, even in our CI/CD pipeline. We need to change that CI/CD pipeline to bring in the security aspects into it. We need to redefine the roles and practices of the security engineering, security management and governance, risk management and compliance. If you see, even Google has mentioned in their new book that SREs are responsible for security. And to do all that, again, what is important is to have everything as code. We need to have security as a code. And for that, we also need to have infrastructure as code. We need to have configuration management as code. We need to bring in observability in all our work. Everything has to be code. Because we cannot predict what a human being will do. Not necessarily that human beings are evil or they are going to do something wrong purposely, but there can always be mistake. If you look at it, the Microsoft data that was open for breach was not because somebody purposely kept it open, but because it was something which was a mistake of a developer, and the tester also haven't been able to check that out. So we can predict that what a script when runs once, whatever it generates, it will generate the same output hundred thousands of times if it is run. So we need to have everything as code. We need to have security also as code. We need to have the policies as code. So DevSecOps is important because security practices are not equal to the security programs. That we have a program where we do some testing, a program where we do some hackathon kind of things. No, it's not just one-time activity at the end. It's an activity which has to be there as part, like breathing throughout the life cycle of the CI/CD. So throughout the product life cycle, starting from the ideation, we have to also consider security. And that's where SREs will bring a lot of value, because the production related to the security aspects, that wisdom of production will come to the left by the SREs. DevSecOps means embedding practices, superseding programs. And security practitioners must adapt. So we as developers, we as testers need to embrace security. Whereas the security experts, the SMEs, the CISOs, the governance, risk and compliance people, they also need to adapt, and they also need to come together as trusted advisor, not as roadblockers. They need to teach people. They need to make sure that the knowledge is shared. The people are more equipped and knowledgeable to take care of the security aspects. Not just say this won't work. So 3 ways to think about DevOps security. Security is everybody's responsibility. So include security into the DevOps. So throughout the pipeline, throughout the starting from the ideation stage, from the designing and architecture, we need to have security. And again, it is important to understand that there is going to be a lot of technical debt refactoring to include security into the already available systems. We need to also make sure that the knowledge is there for everyone. We need to make sure that the tools, the architecture is loosely coupled. That will help us to bring in the security also easily. The more dependent, the more it is bound together. If the architecture is very dependent and monolithic, in that case, including security will be difficult without refactoring. So the refactoring effort will increase the more monolithic the structure is. Operating security teams in DevOps manner. So security has to be part of the team. They will be available on a regular basis as part of the team. Testing will include, starting from unit testing, we will need to include security related tests in every type of test that we are doing. Developers should know, developers should be able to also test themselves that whether their code is good enough. Shift security left. So dev plus ops empowers security. So we are not only talking about the software and hardware, both aspects has to be looked at, and security has to be brought in or baked in into it. So what is the new way? DevOps succeeds by transforming business, whereas security fails by not transforming the business. So the business has to understand that security is part of the journey. It is not a one-time activity at the end. And once it gets into the production, then also we don't stop. We continue to see if there is any weakness in the system which can get attacked. As we are trying to save the things, it is also true that the hackers are also becoming more and more knowledgeable and clever. They are also coming out with new ways of attacking. You may have heard about Meow attack. You know about the ransomwares, different ransomwares that are coming up, and many organizations are facing difficulty in that. So a DevSecOps initiative must fundamentally change how the business functions. So there has to be an incentive model which takes care of the point that everybody has shared accountability for security. That incentive model should not be different for a developer, different for a tester, different for a SME of security. Incentive should be same. That is deploying more products which are not vulnerable, not number of features being developed, number of test bugs that has been found, number of deployments that has been stopped from getting deployed because of vulnerability. No, everybody has the same incentive. It's a team effort, it's a team outcome-based valuation. The appraisal process itself has to change here. We need to look into resilience. It is going to be a wrong expectation to have 100% secure. We cannot be 100% secure. Even if we take care of each and every threats that we know as of today, tomorrow there can be a new threat. So we cannot be 100% secure. The question is, how fast can we jump back to normal business even after an attack? How have we designed our application? How have we designed our infrastructure? How have we designed our network so that even with an attack, it has a limited blast radius and we are able to jump back to normal business at a very, very short time? That requires a lot of design to be thought through well and a lot of loosely coupled architecture. That will bring us resilience and accordingly create it. We need to bring in the organizational culture to accept that everybody's responsibility is security, and how can we improve in our areas to help security to be well baked into the system, into the pipeline. Fourth, generativity. That means we should be able to use the knowledge from the data that is available, which is happening in production. Not deciding on the basis that earlier in some project I have done this, so here also I have to do it. No. That's where the need for a self-organized team, that is where the need for a self, or rather an autonomous team who can decide what they want to do for their area of work, which definitely needs a loosely coupled architecture, but also needs that empowerment to take decisions. And that's where something like a Spotify squad model helps. The squad has all the capability, the squad has all the authority to take decisions for their area of work. They collect the information, what is happening on the ground, and based on that decide what needs to be done. Not take decision on the basis of what we already know or what we have done earlier in other projects. And the advice process. It is from Lalu's book, The Advice Process. What does that mean? The security, the compliance risk, everybody has to come as trusted advisor to the DevOps team, not as roadblockers. They will teach these people, they will handhold these people, they will ensure that people knows what they are doing, why it is important. In my case also, from 1990 when I started with IT, till now, before this, nobody had told us that as a developer, you need to look at security aspects. We talked about port binding, but we never knew why we are doing the port binding. Today, we have more complex systems like microservices. We have serverless architecture, so many moving parts. Creating a vulnerability or a option where a vulnerability can happen is much higher. And we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to be able to take care of those everywhere. The next point which is important is how much security is enough. Just theoretically, if we know that all these 20 different vulnerabilities are there, doesn't mean that we have to take care of all the 20 vulnerabilities. For example, if I have a system which is never ever being accessed by anybody on the internet, but only through the intranet, then we should take care of the intranet security, not on the internet security. There is no point in spending $200 to protect a $5 asset. We need to evaluate that. So the security SMEs has to come as a cooperative partner, not as an adversary. They have to together decide and create a balance between the real and perceived. And that's where we start off with something called threat modeling and attack paths. There are different types of personas who are attacking. Not everybody's motive is same, not everybody, and hence everybody's way of attacking will not be same. If I am an attacker who is doing it only for the fun, I'll do something. It may not be as harmful as anything else. But if I'm somebody who is annoyed, who is frustrated because I lost a job due to the pandemic, I lost my variable pay because of it, then I want to do the harm in a different manner than somebody who wanted fame, somebody who wanted to do it for fun. So we need to understand those personas and create the threat models and attack paths. We need to look at assets versus threats versus vulnerabilities, identify what it takes to take care of it, how realistic it is for it to happen, and what needs to be done, how much cost will it take, how much effort will it take to take care of that. And by putting those in place, how much are we saving? But we need to also look at the qualitative aspects, because today social media knows everything. So pick your battles based on all those considerations. So here is an example of the most popular threat modeling concept that Microsoft had created, which is called the STRIDE model. So if you have not started with threat modeling, start with threat modeling. Threat modeling should start as early as soon as, I mean, it can start from the ideation stage itself, but at least from starting before you start, as soon as you get the requirement and you start the, before you start the design, you should do threat models. And then you should continue to do it in every stage of the life cycle for every MVP that is being produced. So first is spoofing identity. That means somebody is pretending to be someone else, or tampering with data, which is about integrity. So authentication, integrity, repudiation, where it is non-repudiation, like claiming you didn't do something or were not responsible and can be honest or false. We need the system to create those logs from within the system, not somebody writes down in a log. So that you can just read the log and find out whether it's a human created scenario, whether it's a system created scenario. If it is system created, from where it has been done, which particular binary has created this or modified this or deleted this, everything should be there. That's a kind of security related observability that we'll go for. So we need to look at repudiation. Information disclosure, like confidentiality. Providing information to someone not authorized to access it. Denial of service, exhausting resource needs to provide service. Now this is a very common type of attack. And today, one of the largest problems with this is we have auto-scaling features. The problem is if we have auto-scaling, the moment it reaches the threshold, it will keep auto-scaling up and provide more resource. Now, if we are not regularly looking at it as to why that auto-scaling has been done, what has initiated that, how that threshold was reached, By that time, it will be so late that by the time we actually identify the problem, it will let the system to crash. And not only the production system, even the backup system might crash because of denial of service. So we not only just auto scaling is good enough, we need to make sure we are taking care of what is happening in that area, why that auto scaling is done. So all these are, a lot of automation is done, but that automation is not good enough. We need to use what we have here, our brains, to find out whether things are actually being done in the right manner or not. And elevation of privilege, allowing someone to do something they are not authorized to do. So when we are using containers, on a host, we have say 20 different containers, but all of them are at different levels of authentication. That's a major, major area for failure. In our same host, we cannot have containers with different authentication levels. So we have to take care of this. We have to understand this. We have to design these. So some basic things that we need to all understand and follow is do not get into a checkbox trap. What does that mean? It means what we do in our ISOs and CMMIs. We have a checklist and we just tick it off. Okay, all the 20 points have been ticked off, so we are done, we are great with security. No, we have to see what is happening on the ground and do it, not fall into a checkbox trap. Certain basic security hygienes has to be there. Like we still need to harden the hardware. We still need to do patching. We still need to have pre-baked tools. We never, and here, infrastructure as code and configuration management as code becomes more and more important. And everything has to be created through script. Everything has to be properly configuration managed. Then only we will have the basic hygiene in place. Nobody goes, earlier we used to know that we cannot, as developers, touch the production environment or the servers. Now it is not that. Even operation should not be able to touch it. Whatever has to be done only through scripts, which are tested, which has to be checked in, checked out, like that only it has to be. We should have as much of federated identity as possible for our identity and access management. Make process and audit easier by having that observability, having those informations coming from the system into the log. I was hearing in the Devops Enterprise Summit last year in Las Vegas, 4 corporate auditors came in the panel and with Jim Kim, and they said that how they have changed their ways of working and they are working together with the DevOps teams. And these 4 auditors came from the big 4, KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, and Ernst Young. So they have changed their ways of doing it. And the more it is system generated, the more authentic it is. Architecture is changing. So we have to move from traditional data center to more something where we do not have to touch. Even in traditional data center, move more into hypervisors and all. Even today, mainframes are moving on to new kind of servers, new kind of environment, not only just the ZOS kind of thing, but also into Linux. So we have data center plus cloud. We have SaaS, PaaS, IaaS. We have multi-cloud scenarios, which is bringing more complexity, but we have to use all the features. But if you, all those who are using the cloud, you must be already knowing that there are so many components related to security itself. We need to take care of each and every component and in a holistic manner to achieve the target. And that's why a very, very strong architecture is required. We need to think through the whole design even before we touch the tool. And we need to set up all the logs that is possible and on a regular basis, every day, validate it, watch it and see if something is going wrong. So in log management, and that is where the log management comes in. In support of security, audit, and operation, you have to do it. So your monitoring, your observability, your log management, everything has to consider security also. Find the common grounds between your work, between your operations related requirement and reliability related requirement and security related requirements. One report, many queries, not different reports, different sources of information for the same information, for putting it in different reports. Everything should come from the single source. That will bring the authenticity. Here are some best examples of AWS best practices. I'm not going to read through this. You can just go and look at it. You must all be practicing these. But we have to practice these kind of best practices. So read through them, understand them, use them in your design and work. We should use things like basic things of coding, like the 12-factor coding standard. We need to follow those things. So here are some examples of best practices. That is, at a minimum, you need centralized identity. You need federated identity. So you can use things like SAML, OAuth, version 2, etc. There are so many different products has their own identity related and access management related features. But design them properly. There are many options to do tests, like you do lint checks, you do SAST and DAST checks, you use tools like Veracode. Software composition analysis can be done. Pen testing and fuzzing, vulnerability scan, education and awareness is important. You can go to OWASP, you will find a lot of open source tools that are available. And it talks about what are the different levels of education and awareness that needs to be brought in. Not a self-paced learning where you look at a video, answer some questions, and you score your marks so you are done with your security. No, it has to be a regular affair. Every new thing also you need to learn. And the security SMEs has to bring that. We need to do threat modeling. We need to rethink the policies. We need to look at it as policy as code. Use products like Kitchen Terraform, which helps you to define the policies. We are removing the toil by putting these policies. We don't want people to make decisions on this. The policies are decided, it is made into a code. Everything can be checked. A simple one is that every 3 months your password should expire and you should be asked for a new password. You don't need people to manually do it. It should be automatic in a policy, and system should be able to check that policy and take the necessary action and codify and automate. A lot of people comes back and says that there is separation of duty problem. How can everybody be responsible for security? Separation of duty is not affected here. So DevOps by CI/CD means pushing straight into production. No, that is not the case. Every code has to be more thoroughly tested. You cannot do CI/CD, continuous delivery, without continuous integration. You cannot do continuous integration without continuous testing. Testing is becoming more and more critical than what it used to be earlier. And security testing has to be also part of it. There's really no such thing as straight to production, and Dev and Ops are still two teams in most organizations, and they work together to deliver the same outcome. And it is all automated testing. So it's not that I am testing my own product. SOD is effective at stopping fraud and errors. Errors occur. You cannot stop it. But how well you detect and recover, how fast you do, MTTD, MTTR is more important. Fail fast, recover first, learn fast. What we need to understand is we need to fail where we want to fail. And that's where the concept of chaos engineering, even in security, comes into play. DevOps often means more testing. Separation of duty and DevOps are incompatible. No, ask audit to define the control objective, not the control. We as developers, we as testers know better where to put the control to achieve those objectives. Who knows the objectives better? The SMEs of security. Let them define that. Remember, goal of SOD is reducing fraud and error. So do that, and don't accept no. Don't simply say no. If SMEs of security says this cannot go through, ask them why. And you also don't say that we cannot do it. We need to also learn and do things to make sure that the control objectives are met. So logging monitoring is a very, very important aspect. So we need to look at proper log management, and it has to be created automatically, not people creating it, collecting data from multiple sources and then typing it out into a format, into a PPT or something. We need to look at the incident response, not only the normal incidents, but also the incidents related to security. So we need to have one single place where we should be able to log each and every incident, not only for the regular operations incident, but also security incident. And all these has to come, all the user stories related to the work related to security also should come to the same product backlog, and the grooming of the product backlog by the product owner and the other peers needs to be done together in one single shot. You cannot have one grooming done of priorities only for the new features and another set of priority only for the normal incidents and another set of priority for security incidents. All that has to come together because everything is affecting ultimately the service that we are providing to our customers. We need to use threat intelligence. So there are different organizations which is available today, government and non-government and private, where you get these threat intelligence. What is the new threat that has come up? For the new threat, is there any patch which is already available? From where to get all those things? And there are APIs through which you can download this information regularly. You can automate that process so that it automatically downloads as soon as something new is there and checks in your organization to see whether that threat-related patch has been already applied or not. So at the end, this is a diagram which is created by Mark Hornbeek in his book called Engineering DevOps. You can go to engineeringdevops.com and you will be able to see or download even this blueprint for continuous security. So you can see starting from planning, value stream management, application risk assessment, infrastructure, operation, post-prod tests, deploying to prod, approving release, SAT and UATs, artifacts, build test, commit and merge, code test, design. Every stage, there is some activity that needs to be done for security. When we have this whole thing where we can bring all these security related activities we do in each and every stage, that is when we have the complete DevSecOps. We cannot get that happening on the first day. So gradually we should start moving by finding out where best we are going to get the information, where best we are going to get the best return, and we make it more secure. And accordingly, we keep building continuously. It is always has to be an evolution, not a transformation. Transformation is one big bang. We don't want that. We want evolution. So gradually, as we keep improving, we also come across new challenges, take care of those, evaluate those, come out with what is the next good thing to be done, decide on it, take it forward. So thanks everyone. Hope you have been able to get some value out of this session. If you want to connect to me, you can send me a mail at my email ID, or you can use my Twitter handle at NiladriMC. And thanks again to the Devops Summit 2020 Canada for giving me this opportunity to speak here. Thank you.